Hello and welcome. This is Ayana Lahi, and I am so very happy that you're here with me. In this week's episode of Be One, Be You, we are diving into Know the Voice of Your Ego. What does that really mean to recognize and then understand that voice that prompts you into certain thinking patterns, behaviors, and actions? The part of your personality, your psyche, the way that your mind works is to help you to survive. In those moments when you were very young and there were inner questions and insecurities that would arise about your existence, about who you are and how to be you, would arise because you would not know how to be in your life in that moment, interact with a person who was possibly asking you to do something, needing you to show up in a particular way. And we go through those evolutionary emotional responses that take us from living in fear and shutdown to love, being in the love within ourself and living in a state of openness, yet having very strong and clear boundaries. The voice of your ego can be released at any moment. The tricky part is that we get attached to the function of the ego voice. I call it a nameless voice. It may not have a name because it's a part of you that works to keep everything together, keeps things in control, works to have you become and be and stay being a particular way. However you find safety in yourself, whether it's through being very intellectual, escaping through ultra leaving your body, going into an imaginary world, releasing energy through sex, over meditating in order to separate from yourself. The journey of awakening takes you through a direct relationship to how that nameless voice, the you voice, that has served a particular purpose. Maybe you experienced directly that it was unsafe to really be the full emotive you, that the full expression of who you are as a child would get judged. You might have been humiliated, made fun of, reprimanded, told to keep it down. No one really listened to you. Perhaps no one even saw who you were. Or perhaps you had a parent who could support your creative being, your creative expression, and would make a big deal about it and amp up how much that nameless voice, that ego self really served you. We hide until we can't really fulfill what we want to have, what we want to have happen, what we want to experience. And then we realize we have to come forth to meet a greater power, a wider, deeper, higher dimensional power that's bigger than the voice of your ego. Ego is transferred from your ancestral lineage and belief systems through how you are structured to believe in God or not to believe or experience God. The ego serves the function of keeping you in separation from yourself. The voice of your ego is really sneaky. It can be treacherous. It can guide you down the wrong road. It can have you bring forth your deepest wound, your greatest fear, and your ego can trick you and control you through your fear of being you. So how do you take off that layer, that crippling relationship? It starts in your heart. It begins by recalibrating into and with the part of yourself that was in fear, maybe fearful of a parent's opinion, fearful of the impression that you were making, fearful you would not be liked, fearful that you'd be judged, fearful that you'd be abandoned, betrayed, rejected, ABR'd. Your ego, that part of yourself that helps you to survive, plays a real function. And then when the effects of that function no longer work, and you begin to see how relationships hit the wall, your financial reality can hit the wall. You lose balance, and most of all, you've lost the boundaries in yourself. So the boundaries with your own life are very stretched or flabby or insignificant, and you rely upon belief, judgment, religious, political, social, some examples of where beliefs come from. When you reconnect and experience the essence of you, really who you are, and you take the time to get to know your ego. It's very rare to find someone who really knows their ego, because most of us are too busy defending and protecting ourselves because of the inner hurt from early on in our life, then growing older. And we lose that vibrancy connection. How do you get it back? You have to reestablish a broken thread, a ripped part in you that is the source, the spirit, the light itself. When the mental body becomes too filled with itself and believes that who it is its thoughts, we lose the connection with the truth. And the truth within you, yes, it sets you free. The truth within you is the essence of the way that the source of who you are holds you, loves you, and teaches you. Ego thinks it's the teacher. The ego makes you believe that you have to believe something rather than trusting the connection with the light within you, which has a consciousness. And each day when you surrender into the light that you are, you start breaking off the crust. You crack open the armor. And then what? Well, then you've got feelings, and then what do? How do you work with those feelings? You write to them. You get to know them. You honor them. And you understand that the feeling levels cover over the truth, true self that is within you, that may be vulnerable. It may have fear about coming through. So it's through love, the love that's inside of your heart, that unless you open to it, you stay in a box, you stay rigid, you stay unbending, and you live a life opposite than the laws of nature, the laws of the universe, the cosmos. There is an interaction that happens on an energetic level that feels like the perfect alignment of being the center of the nucleus. And yes, sometimes the electrons in your mind will swim and spin around you. That's the invitation to coming in to find your source that is through that inner pain and hurt within you. Your ego is always trying to moderate and modify the pain and hurt of being human. When you face your pain and hurt and decide to come through it, you get to experience the voice of your ego. It has a certain way of telling you, go smoke that joint. Don't worry about that. Don't even think about that. What do you mean you can't handle this? I'll handle it for you. It's okay. Oh, if only you continue with what your father used to do and how your father handled things. He worked out fine in the world. He succeeded. He always took control. You need to take control. What do you mean you want to come forth? That's not safe. Are you kidding? Every woman in your extended lineage never says what she feels. What gives you the right? Who do you think you are anyway? And so there's confusion. There's inner battle of who's in control and who you're listening to. You can bust your ego by being present, which will help you be aware of the way that it's wired up, the circuitry of the ego, so that you are inspired to strengthen the circuitry, the wiring between you and the real self in you that always shows itself through first facing it, recognizing it, receiving it. And to do that, you go through your inner emotional body pain, and you receive the beauty, the true beauty within inside of you, that pure heart, that pure light. I like to suggest to speak to the voice, that nameless voice, and get to know its stance, its position. You have to stand in your real self, take a stand in you to talk to that ego voice. I've seen more people escape and shift out of their connection and just go playing in their head for entertainment and separation. And when you think about what your life is really meant to be, it gives you the opportunity to choose how you're going to spend the moments in this day. What are you going to be following? What are you going to be listening to? What's your purpose? Are you here to invent something new, to be happy, to create a integrated and healthy family unit? What does it take to do that? What are you really teaching through your example? What kind of role model are you? How are you talking to somebody else? Is it the voice of your ego because you have submitted to that voice? When you see the violence in the world, you recognize the ego. By learning through paying attention to the violence and seeing the fear, the annihilation of human life at times because of the ego gone amok, the ego gone crazy. If we don't know the voice of our own ego, how do we recognize the presentation of the ego in our social, religious, political, economic system? How do we recognize it? How do we run a company free of ego? How do we show up for a partner, open, and yet connected into ourself so that we can really be present? What's your role energetically? How are you here to support and realize yourself and to make that your practice with jolliness and happiness, and make sure you have fun and find new ways of really having fun and learning how to immerse yourself in the relationship and union with you and feel into how you want to express. In all of the Spirit Gateways Institute courses and programs, I go into great depth in teaching and supply practices and wisdom to help you to make the big shifts that are needed during this time period so that you can find new ways of simplifying and living in a direct connection and relationship with that beauty that you are. I invite you to come to my website, ayanalahi.com, IANALAHI.com, and experience for yourself all of the courses and trainings that are inside the Evolutionary Empowerment Global Village. It is a resource of infinite and exceptional quality that I've been working on for the last few years and have put it all into one place so that you can receive and experience those programs, those courses. And each of the courses is a program unto itself that are all interconnected to support you on your human journey into oneness within you. I create it with love for you and invite you to find that tier that works for you, because you can come in and take the courses, or you can take the courses and be in a mentoring program with other men and women from around the globe. Thank you so much for being here and holding your heart open to you. And I surround you in big love. And until next time, this is Ayana Lahi.